So the rise of ChatGPT has been unprecedented, and many people are speculating as to what GPT-5 will bring. Now, we all know that ChatGPT did rise incredibly crazy. I mean, if you compare it to some of the other applications on the internet, 100 million users in just 60 days. So that's why we know very well that ChatGPT is most certainly going to impact the world in a very profound way. I mean, if you're able to hit 100 million monthly users in only 2 months, it means image and of course some video modality where you can potentially use videos to gain data or potentially have text to video, which is definitely going to be very interesting. Now, of course, there is the last tab, of course, which is touch, and the only way that this is achievable is if OpenAI manage to get their hands on some really cool robots or manage to build them themselves. And that's what I'm going to be talking about later on in this video, because OpenAI are far superior and far smarter than that of GPT-3. And of course, with the vision, it just makes it that much smarter. Now, of course, that being that much smarter, you can all see right here that it did manage to pass many different exams. But with GPT-5, it's likely going to ace these exams, asking GPT to identify exactly what the problem is and asking for an immediate solution. It could simply find the solution in your environment. And that's something that it's already managed to do, which is absolutely incredible, especially once those integrations have actually managed to merge with the robots that OpenAI is supposedly working on in the future. Because of course, as you know, this is what is going to happen eventually sometime down the line. Now, we do know that there are companies that have actually integrated language models into moving robots. Here you can see a Google robot, the Palm E robot, with the parameters that are set, the 540 billion parameter model that is interacting with a live environment. And you can see right here that there is actually some adversarial disturbance where they actually take the item from its hand and see exactly how the robot will handle this problem. Now, this is why I say Google is always going to be doing some very interesting things with AI. We just have to see what they manage to release to the public, because it's always going to be interesting. And this just goes to show what ChatGPT-5 could be capable of if OpenAI decide to quickly deploy autonomous force, because as we can see, they can already interact with the environment in a very good way, and we know that this technology is only going to be increasing. Now, this is what someone tweeted very recently. Someone tweeted that I've been told that GPT-5 is scheduled to complete training in this you're currently looking at was a research paper that was done by Microsoft. So this wasn't just a research paper done by anyone. This was done by an extensive team who looked at the paper for quite some time. So of course, the definition of artificial general intelligence is basically being able to understand or learn any human task that any human can do but that is going to be something that most certainly does happen in the future if things continue at that pace. Now, of course, something else, but it was rebranded to 1X, and I think that it was rebranded to 1X to focus on artificial intelligence robots at scale. Now, you can see right here that these robots were called Halodi Robotics, and essentially these robots are really good at performing simple tasks around the home. You can see right here that it is making some gingerbread cakes, and it is performing the tasks that a chef may perform. Now, this is an old video from around 2 to 3 years ago, but it's very interesting to see that OpenAI is starting to invest their money into these robotics companies. Now, I think essentially what OpenAI is trying to do is trying to gain a foothold on a autonomous force. Maybe they want to partner with these smaller robotics companies. That way, when it comes time for GPT-5 to be merged with the physical world and to interact with the physical world and to move around, then maybe they already have that autonomous force there. Because of course, OpenAI are very good at making their language model, and that's all they're going to be focusing on. But when the time does come for them to deploy it in robot format, maybe they want to work on a commercial scale or maybe even a retail scale for a higher ticket client. For example, you might want to start these robots at maybe around $3,000, or maybe just for people who don't want maids anymore or certain specific menial tasks. This is possibly the route that they're going to go down. Now, you can also see here that this is another example of these robots that are patrolling the warehouse that was going on, and it was definitely very interesting to see how these robots perform basic functions and perform them high degree of efficiency. You can see right here that it's actually picking up a suitcase and putting it back in the correct position. And imagine combining this with GPT-4's knowledge, or in fact GPT-5's upgraded sensory perception. It's honestly going to be insane. So another thing that we are experiencing the rise of is, of course, ChatGPT plugins. Now, by the time that GPT-5 comes around, there's going to be many different use cases for this platform, and one of them is data in which it can pull from, and many different examples that it's going to have seen many different times before in terms of giving patients exactly what they need. And this is going to be something that is going to be wide scale. Maybe there's even going to be a small app that you have on your phone, and you won't even need to go to the doctor anymore, because you literally ask this health app exactly what's wrong with you, and it's going to know. Now, what's really cool to figure out the diagnosis. And of course, you can see right here that essentially what they did was they asked ChatGPT exactly what was wrong with their dog, and they provided it with every single piece of data that they thought was necessary. And you can see that eventually in the end, ChatGPT managed to come to some kind of conclusion with the kind of problem that the dog could have been experiencing, and it actually did get it right. Now, of course, right now, some people say that this could be a fluke, or this could not be the entire application of ChatGPT, because that's not what it was built for. But think about if it is fine-tuned for this. I mean, imagine it's trained on every single health issue in a specific field, and it has every single image ever of that specific type of condition. It's going to get really good at identifying whether or not it is that condition or not. And just imagine in the future when we have these robots being able to identify exactly what is wrong with us within a couple of seconds, it's going to make for a very, very swift and fast healthcare system. What will happen before GPT-5? One of the first things that we need to fix is before we've seen this scale actually take place. Now, there is also, of course, the multimodal input, which they did tease, which hasn't actually been released yet. We are waiting on, and of course, we are also waiting on the GPT platform. So there is quite a bit of stuff that is needed to be done before GPT-5 is released. But when that date could be announced, we will never know, because honestly, sometimes you have to understand that OpenAI is working on advanced software and they may not release it. For example, Bing was running on GPT-4 all along and they didn't tell us this. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how quickly the development process continues and how quickly things do advance, because currently there are many different developments that are going on with the AI landscape, not just with ChatGPT. And right now there seems to be a major issue with many of the world's AI leaders, and they are even discussing halting the progress of GPT-5 because they think that it's going to be a significant danger to humanity. Now, at the time of recording this video and making this video, there hasn't been an official statement to whether or not OpenAI are going to stop the production of their next latest language model, which will be GPT-5. But we do know that if GPT-5 is released, it definitely is going to have some worldwide impacts. And of course, on both sides, there are going to be good impacts because, of course, it's going to be a very efficient and effective software. But on the other side, it may have some very catastrophic effects for society, such as replacing millions of course, that this is not going to be OpenAI's intention to, destroy the world with GPT-5. But if you take a look at this interview, it just shows us what could happen if this software gets into potentially the wrong hands. I mean, we're not that far away from AGI, and if this GPT software does become super intelligent, whoever owns the company is going to be the most powerful person on the earth, simply because it's going to be the smartest thing on the earth. So take a look at this example from the early version of GPT-4, which was unrestricted and raw.
Probably more striking about it than anything, right up there with its raw power, was that it was totally amoral, willing to do anything that the user asked, with basically no hesitation, no refusal, no chiding. It would just do it.
Now, of course, GPT is in good hands, but imagine the horrible scenario if it's jailbroken or if something happens to where bad actors do get access to the software. The possibilities are truly endless and honestly quite scary.